and do some
Yeah,
intros.
absolutely. You want to throw up my beautiful title slide, Birch?
I do.
Awesome. So yeah, thank you everyone. This is the second one of these that we did. And we're gonna hopefully be running these about once a month, but I actually think that this is a really interesting topic, certainly to me. And that's what happens with employer branding, something that we've all put a lot of like resources and time in the age of AI, where obviously there are some potential landscape and on the horizon. So, with that, I did want to just introduce, I guess, my fellow panelists here. And so, uh, let's go down the list. Rachel, welcome. You want to just say
Hi.
who you are, where you work, and most interesting thing about you not on your resume?
Sure. So I'm Rachel Duran. I lead global employer brand and recruitment marketing for Hewlett Packard Enterprise. Most interesting thing about me that's not on my resume is that I sew and design costumes and props for my daughter's dance team.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Mr. Chaney, Bryan.
So I lead people experience communications at Crunchyroll. And that means a combination of internal communications as well as talent brand. And so the stories, there's a big overlap in the kinds of stories that need to be told inside and outside. And so I've got both of those lenses. Also a community builder, and I love bringing people together. There's something amazing that happens when the right people are brought into a room like this. Conversations happen. And you don't have to really do anything. Like they happen on their own. That's the magical essence of picking the right people. So what's something that's not on my resume? I don't know about amazing, but definitely something that I've brought through and I've communicated from time to time is I spent 7 years as a florist. I did everything from design and deliver the flowers all the way through managing the business. Yes, I have been responsible for someone's bridal bouquet multiple times. But the thing that you learn is you learn that how to carry emotions and how people try to communicate with each other through other things. And you also learn about service, like just get the stuff done that you need to get done and don't be precious about it.
All right. And last but certainly not least, Prem, welcome.
Thanks, Matt. Prem Kumar, CEO and co-founder at Humanly. Most interesting thing about me not on my resume. There's nothing interesting about me on my resume, so that's easy. No, I would say when I was younger, I could dunk a basketball. I don't know if I can anymore.
That's awesome. I like if anyone here's actually ever seen me, we know that this is the furthest thing for me for an impossibility. Is dunking a basketball since I am a little low to the ground. So no, I'm jealous of that fact. And welcome guys. It's a really good panel we have together. And thank you all for joining us. So we knocked one off, but here's what we're talking about is AI and job applications, brand voice and authenticity, the economic, so things like brand signals, employee ratings and reviews. We'll be talking about AI governance and people analytics. And then finally, we will be bringing it down to a lightning around audience Q&A. The slides displaying? Am I missing that at all?
The slide should be displaying. Can
Oh, no, that's fine.
we
My,
mention?
my, my apologies. The slides are displaying.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. I was just in the wrong screen because I had Sorcerer Cat open. So, Brian, now let's do this. Okay, so we're gonna start out with number one, and this is like top of mind right now, which is, do you want to go to the next slide, Bert? AI and applicants, like the great resume tsunami, the great flood, whatever antediluvian sort of terminology you want to use. But here's kind of where we're at with that. The volume is up, quality is uneven. There's more employer brand noise being generated than ever before. Applications, generative tools make it easy to mass supply or craft the perfect application. Therefore, what you're left with essentially is these statistics. So 52% of candidates use AI to craft resumes, cover letters, and assessments. Okay, so you have AI use pretty prevalent in candidates. Then you have 11,000 job applications processed by LinkedIn every minute last month, which I would say is another force multiplier more than likely. That's a tremendous number. And 34% of active candidates said that they've used AI to automate the job application process. So we're not only getting just the AI resumes and sort of that stuff, we're also getting the full process essentially being I would say manipulated by candidates to a certain extent. So I'm going to start this off then with a couple of questions. I guess first and foremost, I'm going to start with you, Bryan, if you don't mind. So if AI has inflated application counts, which I think we're under the agreement that it has, what brand cues are you now using in job ads and outreach to separate genuinely motivated talent from AI spray and pray candidates?
Well, just like in any good message, you want to detract as well as attract. And I think now some people aren't going to care, right? They see a job, they see a title, they see what, you know, Indeed or LinkedIn or some other estimate says is the salary range, if it's even included. And they're like, okay, I think I might be able to do that. I'm going to go. Against all odds, I'm going to go, right? It's the person who decides that they're going to go approach the person in the nightclub, whether or not they actually have the skills or the appearance to actually carry on a conversation, right? So there's going to be an element of that, but I do think that the numbers are up, way up. I like sarcastically said a little bit, they're up a lot, and I'm one of the 52%, right? Okay, so you use AI to say, where's the gap? What is the thing that I'm missing? And not, and it's really important how they're using it. So it's not just am I using AI, but it's am I using AI to elevate how my skills transfer? So it's starting off of a source of truth, not saying, here's the job description. Now, how do I craft a resume that may or may not be truthful? So I think that there's like how they get there and where they start is really, really important to this conversation.
Okay, that's really interesting. So to get them there, Rachel, like what volume guardrails reduce like noise in that application process without torpedoing the candidate experience? And what are you seeing being the big reason still for those really qualified candidates who are abandoning the application?
Right. That's a really important part about it because I think that those things come hand in hand, right? Anything that you do to try to quell that volume is also going to potentially have a bad candidate experience. And in fact, one thing that we've been running through and testing is being able to access with a screen reader, a lot of that same functionality is also going to make it easier to, have these higher volume applications. I personally, speaking for myself, I don't care if candidates use AI to craft their resumes, cover letters, whatever. I think that's great. If they were going to falsify them, they were going to falsify them anyway. If they were doing them themselves, I think it just helps them do it faster. And that's why we're seeing a lot of this volume. I love that they're using AI to do it because it shows the skill set. Growth. And we're going to need that, right? We're going to need people who understand how to build prompts that give them a quality product. And so to me, that part's not the problem. It's kind of understanding a conversation that we've been needing to have as an industry for a long time. I think it's just putting a spotlight on it as how do you quantify and qualify from a data perspective, what is a qualified candidate? Because people have always, smudge the lines a little bit on, their experience and background and skills and things like that. But with this high volume, it just has become, much more of a conversation. And I think that when we're blocked by things like, we want to make sure that we're being ethical, right? So we don't want to have AI necessarily making decisions around hiring for us, but then it's having a conversation about like, is CAPTCHA making a decision know it's qualifying, an applicant. And so I think those are the types of conversations that we're having around how to continue that good experience and the accessibility, while also figuring out how to qualify these candidates.
Sure. That's a great, and Prem, I want to just like turn it over to you. Like when you see that pipeline sort of swelling, right? You have all these applicants kind of coming in. Just in terms of like the volume, what do you see as being successful in cutting down volume while increasing quality? Like what friction do you add? Do you have work samples, assessments, situational prompts to make like people self-select in or out? Have you seen your customers do anything that's noteworthy there?
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple of things. One is certainly agree with Rachel. This isn't a new thing, but it is certainly exacerbated. I mean, in the past, we're still spending, and before Humanly, I was on the buyer side, but we're still spending hundreds of thousands of dollars in recruitment marketing a year to attract volume and then only engage with like 5% of it. So I think in any case, if you're not filling a job, what you're really trying to do is build a pipeline. You should talk to as many people as you've paid for to attract. So I think we have a choice. It's how do we limit the volume or how do we get better at engaging with all of it at scale? And I'm more into the second one, but you're right. For a specific job, you do need to get a smaller list. So my thought is using AI to engage with all of it. And yeah, you can there's a lot of duplicate applications. There's a lot of fraud. So get that out of the way with AI can help with. And then can you better evaluate? And our way of doing it is through having like a two-way conversation with them, whether that's video, voice, chat. I think the other thing is the only reason we are even trying or talking about limiting it is because the next steps involve humans who have limited time and are expensive. But theoretically, if you can have someone go through a full evaluation using technology, then send it to the smaller list to a human, there's more evaluation that can be done than just looking at keywords on an application or resume. And I think that's kind of the path, but yeah.
So 2 layers of screening then, like an intake, minimum qualifications, and then a drill down on your shortlist.
Yeah, and I think a drill down on the short list, and you asked me kind of how you do that. So once you get the fake profiles or the spam out of the way or the duplicates, having a two-way conversation with the job candidate over using AI to get to know them better, and letting them also evaluate the company because they're less likely to drop off if they have all the information up front. And the faster you can get to them, I think the better off we'll all be in building pipeline and filling the immediate role.
Awesome. Any last thoughts before we move on to the next topic?
Yeah, so I have a question. One, there was even a conversation in a group that I'm a member of about how they were in an interview and they were asking a question and the person kind of like froze. And it was very clear that they were literally waiting on whatever AI they were using, we'll call it their friend Chad, to give them the answer. And then they said the person was wearing glasses and they could actually see the screen change. And as soon as the screen changed, they were like it was like somebody put a quarter in, and they rattled off this answer. They were like, it's very, very obvious that they were waiting on their answer because they didn't know it, and they got to that point through some form or fashion. My guess is their friend Chad was holding their hand along the way, but thinking about that, I've actually come across some organizations that have said they won't accept AI generated content in the process. Now they're not saying they won't accept the resume, but they'll say that we won't accept any kind of work product where AI has been used. Yeah,
And
yeah,
how's that
same
enforceable? How's that
response.
enforceable would be my question though. Like Oracle really going to be able to be like, oh yeah, that's clearly AI, you know?
Pretty
I
slow.
mean, it's the M dash. That's really all you need.
The M
It's
dash
just
and the
a,
emojis. Yeah.
Which is AP standard, which Matt and I have written in for years, but
Don't let everyone know what nerds we are. Strike and White has a good, by the way, Rachel. It came out last week.
yeah.
Okay, so here's my like TLDR on all this. We have a bunch of resistant, or we have a bunch of people using AI on both sides, but we have fewer hires than ever. So reducing noise to signal ratio is essential in order to create any value from any of this whatsoever, or else you're just going to get a bunch of people who didn't read your job descriptions applying for jobs they aren't qualified for. Next, we go on next slide, Birch. Okay, so this is going to be the interesting part of the conversation, I think, and this is like brand voice and authenticity. So candidates trust employers more than most sources, believe it or not. But skepticism is rising, and AI makes content both easier to scale, but to the point, also easier to fake. And so brand voice could be something that Matt puts together and is the antithesis of what that brand is actually like to work there. Next slide, please. So this is like just another three stats, but this is, I think the first one's an interesting one. So out of all the global institutions out there, they do the Edelman Trust Barometer every year. And my employer was actually the most trusted source out of any place of information. So that's like media, news, government. Of all institutions, my employer is the most trusted, more so than friends or family. 60% have a fear of AI, worrying that it may displace their jobs or create wage pressure. And there's a lot of skepticism remaining in the process, which is that 37% of candidates think that AI is going to actually hurt their ability to find a job rather than help it. Which brings it to the first question. I'm going to start with you this time, Prem. How do you communicate AI's role in the hiring process to candidates without sounding like you're replacing people, given there's so much, anxiety about wages and job preservation? But you're using AI like upfront first interaction. How do you make that palatable to the average candidate?
Yeah, I think one thing is it is a two-way thing. So if you're not using AI simply to just evaluate them and add a step, but you are answering their questions, you are providing feedback. That's one thing. Another thing I'll say is in high volume, it's not really AI versus human. It's AI versus not talking to anyone or waiting a week if you're a strong fit. So I think most people, if it works, similarly 4 years ago when chatbots started to hit the market more, there was hesitation, and that's because there were a lot of crappy chatbots, to be honest. And when it actually works, and it answers your question and moves you on, that is very helpful. And I also think, as far as like, I certainly think a trained recruiter or even hiring manager is better than AI in expressing the brand promise, but they should be using tools for what talk tracks, what elements of our employer brand are resonating and creating conversion with these sets. But delivering it via human is going to be better. But the problem is we just don't have humans to talk to everyone that comes in. So lots of people are just not hearing the full story.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I guess kind of piggybacking on that, Rachel, I want to ask you this. So in terms of creating sort of that transparency and openness around an employer brand, tactically, how do you do that? Like, what are the on-the-record artifacts, things like policies or dashboards that you publish or share in public so that brand claims can essentially survive scrutiny? Like, what should companies do tactically in order to facilitate authenticity or transparency?
Yeah. So I think just kind of focusing in on the tactically part and making sure there's that authenticity. I think about, in my experience in employer brand and recruitment marketing, whether I was the one person at the whole company that did everything to now where I have a global team and an ad agency and all of those things, at every version of that scale, what I never had a problem doing was sitting down with a phone and a tripod and a ring light and taking a video of somebody, or jumping on a call with somebody and asking them their story, their employer brand story, and getting that kind of content. What is very time consuming is that really good brand and content strategy, tagging, organizing, who are we emailing, who are we asking to do this, where are we keeping these videos, how do we edit them, how do we add captions, how do we go through and refresh them, where are they sitting? That's the kind of things that we need to be thinking about, because those things take so much manual time. I think that's why a lot of people don't produce content, and then you just have these really splashy videos that are very generic, and they're, even if they're real people and not AI videos per se, it's not as authentic as it could be, in the sense that you're not talking to that exact candidate in that exact role. You're not able to put a video that's about that exact job on a job description, things like that. So I think about that from AI for being able to scale content to make more content with real with real employees, real team members that are telling that story, because that is what especially this newer generation coming up is expecting to see, is that higher level content that they can consume really quickly. And I think that using AI to actually create the content is a huge employer brand risk. Even if you can't tell the difference between an AI video or a regular video, especially, younger folks or people, as the kids say, I'm chronically online, right? So I'm seeing people in comments arguing all the time, like, how could you not tell this is AI? And there's a trust issue there. They're like, I don't want to have this brand. I don't want to engage with this ad. Like, I'm going to call you out for using AI. You need to pay artists. There's all kinds of different reasons. And it may cause anxiety for people feeling like, oh, they're using AI, so that means they're not going to be hiring as much, or my job's going to be at risk if I work here, right? And so you can have that front end actually be more authentic and create more real content with real people if you think about it more on that operational side. And then also, like, how are candidates using AI too, right? So understanding what are they searching in like a chat GPT, or what are they seeing in the AI results in Google, and thinking about it more on those back end operational stances instead of the content itself.
I think that's great. And Bryan, I just want to piggyback on Rachel's response there. Obviously, brands are going to use AI to create content. That's an unavoidable fact, right? So what do you see as the bar between synthetic brand content, so AI, video, voice blogs, and all that, and where do you think the human should still stay front and center within that narrative?
So all I could think about is a really gross or inappropriate reference to how sausage is made, because it's what goes in. It's the difference between giving people a really clear view of the ingredients that are going into that versus, hey, by the way, would you like a Beyond Burger? We're not going to tell you like what's beyond what we put into it, but you're going to get this thing that it's going to give you a facsimile of this experience. And no fault or judgment to anybody who eats that because they don't want to eat animals, but really it's thinking about what's going into it. So the stories have to be unique. The stories have to be real. You can't say, here are all the things, craft me an example of a story. It has to be, take this story that exists, that a real person said, that was collected by a Rachel or a Bryan or anyone else on the team, or they just heard it. It was in the survey results. Okay, here's a quote. Great. Where's a picture of that person? How do we take these elements and pull them together? The story itself has to be real. And from a business perspective, you have to tell people what is on the tin, because you have to say, our philosophy around AI is this. We believe that we are going to use AI in this way, and we want to be clear about it. That's going to be like, oh, okay, well, by the way, a company that started with the letter M laid off 8,000 people, said it was going to be that they were going to generate cost savings and efficiencies through the use of AI. There are all these different things that are happening. So people are hearing these stories. Okay, what kind of employer am I going to go work for? Well, one that's going to use AI in this specific way. The company that I work for the moment, has a very specific perspective on AI, and that's AI will not touch a creative process for the business that we're in. But from a business perspective on the back end, efficiencies and process and doing all those things, we're going to take advantage of it however we can. So it's not whether we're going to use it, it's how we're going to use it and being upfront about it.
Awesome. And I just I want to circle back a little bit to Rachel, because you talked about there not being a difference necessarily between a synthetic person, like you maybe spot it, and like a real human and all that. I would say that often with employer branding, there is a lot of stuff that is either misleading or not, like it's very generic, right? So what proof points do you personally find effective to add in stuff like job ads or company culture pages to show that vision, values, mission alignments, not just like good marketing copy.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think kind of going back to that, the most relevant, common denominator, I guess is how I would say it. So as specific as we can get. So one thing that our team is known for at HP on the employer brand side is we have a ton of landing pages on our career site, for example, and you can't really navigate easily to those pages from, say, a menu, because that would be really overwhelming, but it's more like from a campaign perspective or from the chat bot, things like that, how you land on that content. So if you're looking for a job in networking, as a networking engineer in Puerto Rico specifically, we have a page for that, and we have videos of real people that work there in those types of roles, right? So I think that being able to have the authenticity to say, we're not just having videos or statements from executives about what it's like to work here. It's from people that you might actually work with on a real team, people you can actually look up on LinkedIn and maybe connect with them, to have that type of authenticity. But it's a lot of volume, right? And so I think that that's why, I talk about the potential for AI to be able to manage that authenticity, because it's so much work to do that kind of volume. But I think that you really have to get specific and highlight, people based on the specific roles.
Awesome. Awesome. Let's go to the next slide. So everyone's favorite topic, reputation economics, which are becoming more important, by the way. So these are things like reviews, ratings, and brand signals. Obviously, brand is not something that's only created by the company. It's a living, breathing, dynamic thing. And AI directly impacts how your brand shows up and also the number of clicks and applies that generates. So AI, it seems like it's having a little bit of an impact on the current job search situation. It comes to finding employer brand reviews. I imagine that Indeed owning Glassdoor and Fishbowl probably doesn't hurt that too much. So just a couple stats, a half of a point increase in your Glassdoor rating drives 20% more clicks and 15% more job starts on average. So I don't know if the solution there is to get a worse Glassdoor score and cut down on applicant volume, or get it up and get the people to finish the process. 68% of workers feel that their employer deliberately misleads their employees or new hires about what it's really like to work there. And 42% of candidates will drop out of a hiring process if they feel a company's AI use in recruiting is excessive or too impersonal. So almost half if they get to it. So kind of just starting out there, like, I guess, Bryan, we'll lead with you. How do you manage that, like, employer responses to reviews so that the tone matches the brand and actually changes what's being considered? Or is it something that you don't spend a lot of time thinking about? Just talk to me about the interplay between your employer brand and your company reviews.
Sure. So I don't think it's an interplay. I think it's an expression of, and I think you're either ready and willing to respond to specific things or you're not. It depends on where your career traffic is coming from. If your traffic's coming from Glassdoor, great. In my experience, Glassdoor traffic is really later within the funnel. People will see something, they'll look at it, they'll be like, okay, does it look right? Does it smell right? Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and apply. And then if I have to actually think about this, if I'm either being considered or if I'm really excited about this, then they'll go check those things. It's usually a little bit later stage process. So it depends on how comfortable the company is in responding to those issues and calling them out. So we have a response matrix. Okay, what are we going to do? Is it positive? Is it negative? I've actually got a whole doc. I'm scared to use the S word. That's spreadsheet. But it's something that I've actually taken from company to company that then pulls data in and allows me to see, and then specific leaders to see which way are you trending, and for which organization within your company, where are they located, specific countries. And so you can actually look at that at the team level and then escalate that. So it's a little bit here it's a little bit less about the response on Glassdoor and more about what does that mean and how do I take this to the leader so that they can understand that this is now an issue that they should be considering and dealing with. Yes, sometimes it means that you got to respond to it, but it's also how are you putting those responses in the hands of recruiters or who are having these conversations because they're the ones who are getting questions over and over and over again and responding to things that are brought up that might be pain points, might be patently false. There's all those things that have to be addressed. Again, this could be its own uh, topic, freestanding for a long time because there's lots of opinions. My personal opinion is I don't want to pay for access to those kinds of things. I want to respond and I want to use the information and pay attention to it. But the signal there is a signal that I use to drive content creation. Because if there's not enough story in the market to explain that we fixed that problem, or it's not even a problem, or we realize that it's a problem and we're working on it, and here's what we're doing, use that to drive content creation and curation so that you know that, okay, there has to be a balance out there between what people can find, what shows up in AI summaries in search. Oh, there's a story that specifically calls that out. Cool. Check that box. Okay, great. Well, the conversation might be, why did that ever come up? Well, it's a historical thing and we fixed it and we're working forward and here's how we worked through it. So there has to be a response to that as a human. And then over time, that content will replace the content that's helpful that tells a more complete story will replace the one-sided content or at least supplement it.
Rachel, I guess since AI became like much more prevalent, has it changed your approach to employee reviews at all, or how you approach them?
Yeah, for sure. So we think about it certainly in the sense of, contractual obligations and how may want to shift that relationship for what are we paying for versus we're getting out of it from a candidate experience standpoint. And what I mean by that is AI has really changed the scope of how candidates are going to kind of preview where they want to apply and what it's like to work there. So they're doing things like going into ChatGPT and saying, what are the top companies I should apply to as a working mom in Dallas that needs flexibility and this and that, right? So we have to think about where is ChatGPT going to get the information for that response. So it's going to get it from Glassdoor, Indeed. It has its certain URLs that it's going to pull that information from, and it's going to give them information ranking you and talking about different things. So it's not just about a score anymore. It's going to pull certain keywords that are a response to their exact prompt. And I totally agree with Bryan. That is why this should have always been part of, like the thought process on how you build content for missing information online, but also, correcting maybe misinformation, or maybe that was a problem in the past and we fixed it. That's where you want to make sure that you're building articles and even FAQs, honestly, because FAQs are a great way to get picked up on, even just the AI results on Google. We used to all pay to be at the top. It doesn't matter anymore. The AI results at the top on Google. So really thinking about how you can build out that information and get, these large language models to start picking that up over time is going to be very, very key, because nobody's going to go, I'm going to look at Glassdoor and, well, in a few years, that's going to be a thing of the past.
Sure. I bet that Recruit probably disagrees with you or hopes, but Prem, just in terms of, I guess, I think it was Rachel's point. What is the payoff for how much this costs versus the candidate experience? What sort of baseline benchmarks or metrics do you advise your clients to look at in terms of reputation management and brand sentiment?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it kind of, I feel employer brand is brand, and recruitment marketing is marketing. So a lot of those similar things. I know Rachel was mentioning placing and using like generative engine optimization, placing in LLMs is one important piece. I would say, to answer your question, I would treat it in the same way that you would treat a marketing funnel, and how you're bringing a candidate along on the journey, and in getting feedback specifically. A lot of companies are still getting experience feedback at the end, but can you learn more about each step in the funnel and what's leading to conversion and satisfaction in that step, whether it's application step, interview step. Couple of just other very quick things. Going back to what Bryan and Rachel were alluding to in the last question, I think a lot a lot of this is you have to have the process and the people, where AI is simply a tool. It's a very powerful tool that can make things happen more efficiently, but it can make bad process happen more efficiently bad. So I think you need to pick what you want to scale. And as far as feedback specifically, I think getting more granular feedback in the moment. A lot of those micro things can move the needle quite a bit versus just waiting on Glassdoor data, for instance.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, we'll move to the final section here. We're doing really good on time, you guys. Thank you. Which is governance and guide rails for AI. We're not going to belabor this, but basically, TA is at a place where there is a new playbook for choosing, using, measuring AI, AI governance and adoption, sort of a new frontier within the human resources function. We'll do my 3 stats, and then I'm going to leave this with Prem. So 71% of employers currently use AI in their hiring process. So it's not absolute yet. 54%, a little over half of companies, plan on boosting their AI-related spend in recruiting in the next year. However, given its prevalence, only 26% of organizations currently have formal or established AI policies for employees. So I want to leave this off with you, Prem. Like, knowing that compliance is such a huge issue for like both the marketing side and the recruiting side, how do you make sure that a vendor is compliant? And just talk me through the questions that people should be asking.
Yeah, and I can get specific, but I'll start with one thing. I think it was Rachel that made the comment around trust, and I think establishing trust is just crucially important with candidates and with buyers. And we have a technology that has the gap between intended adoption and trust is like the highest I've seen for a B2B software since cloud computing. So clearly that gap needs to be resolved. And one way to do it is being very transparent around compliance auditing. Not all AI is created equally. Like the difference between someone with no recruiting experience and someone with 28 years of recruiting experience is vendor A versus vendor B. And I think I'll talk about some of the questions, and oftentimes I'll almost treat it like if you're hiring a human. So if this avatar is going to be engaging with your candidates, is this avatar does it pass your culture ad set of screening questions? Is it actually adding to your culture? And I also think a lot of the candidate frustration happens when we're using AI because they might perceive that it's being used because we're lazy, but if you can actually use it to make the experience better, then I think that's what matters. So as far as like specific questions, a lot of it has to do with the data. So is it trained on data sets that are representative of your roles? Is it more generic? Are they transparent? Can they give you an audit done by a third party? If you're talking to a vendor, can they give you an audit done by a third party to show there isn't bias? Do they have rules around how they build, how they deploy, how they govern the AI models? Yeah, and we have a checklist of all the specific questions, but I'd say the number one thing is around data. Like what data do they have? How are they training it? Or how are they using your data? And then the second one is can they provide to you a third party audit report that can prove certain things around bias and other compliance related areas?
Gotcha. Just following up on that, I'm sorry. I was just saying, following up on that, like, what do you advise companies to be? Obviously, this is not for humanly, but rollback plan. Should companies have those if a vendor ships a new model that either changes the outcome or fails a spot audit? Like, what should I do if the technology I implement changes?
Yeah. No, if you hired someone and they broke a bunch of EEOC compliance rules, there would be certain consequences. And you cannot bring on AI without having the ability to enact those same sets of consequences. So whatever your policy is there, because it can create the same risk. And I think anytime you scale impact through using AI, you are scaling risk. So yes, absolutely. I haven't seen like the specific ones I prescribe, but if a company is having you go on this journey with them, like there needs to be a way out if it's not working. Is how I would describe it.
No, I think that's really good advice. And Rachel, just I guess when you're looking at some of these tools on the buyer side, do you have like an AI intake form? Like who signs off on purpose, data sources, some of the things that we talk about, like training data lineage and the intended decisions? Do you have any guardrails in place to kind of inform those policies?
Oh, yes. So I think that I probably have an extra layer than, a lot of our colleagues listening, of course, because, we're in a company that deals with and implements AI as part of our, B2B business. And so it's not just about making sure that, we go through ethics and compliance and legal and thinking about all of the unintended consequences along the way. And understanding that the data that AI learns from is based on, what you give it. And so is it going to inherit some of, those bad processes and the things that are like that. But then we have this extra layer that's a little bit of stress that's like, hey, we can't do this wrong. We can't just fly by the seat of our pants on this. We have to be really thoughtful about what the intended outcomes are and how we're going to assure that, because that's very representative of us as an overall brand. And like I think it was Prem, you were saying, the employer brand is brand, right? And so my team and our overall brand team have a very close relationship because we are very equal in our thought process of protecting the brand and understanding what all of that means. And so we really think about that as a brand decision as well as is when it's appropriate to use AI and how well we're thinking through it.
Awesome. Bryan, final question. And by the way, if anyone is listening, we're going to be doing Q&A in a second. So please feel free to enter comments in the chat window there on Zoom. I guess, Bryan, kind of like you're obviously more on the communications and internal enablement side than the other people on this call. How do you communicate both policies and possibilities of AI usage, if at all, to your current employees?
Yeah. So as a spin-off of what Rachel was saying, there's an AI council, and their whole responsibility is to vet new tools, to talk about the processes, the reasoning behind how we're using an AI tool. So if we're bringing on a vendor and AI is part of it, that's absolutely a process that's run through our Chief Information and Security Officer. It goes all across all the people you'd expect, from legal to communications to technology. And so that exists as a process, but there's also that what if I want to use something? And so there's a tool already out there and it's free, or I have access to certain things. How do I use that? What do I do? So we went through pilots, a specific phase, not Microsoft pilot, we went through an actual pilot phase where we tested and we tried multiple LLMs, and we're like, okay, how does this work? Because we actually have a little more, not quite to the level that Rachel has as far as restrictions and all the other things. But when you think about it, we've got a parent company that has security and process and all the things that are lined behind it. So we communicate. These are the tools. This is how you use it. We assign learning. So there's L&D modules specific to how, not just general, here's how you use AI, but here's how you use the specific applications that have been approved for corporate use. Yes, there are going to be people who are using stuff that is not on the list, right? But formally, it's like, yeah, this is how we need you to use these tools. And then we have a process for vetting new tools and testing them out. And there's even communities that have popped up around the use of AI and how people have created their own prompts, shortcuts, agents across engineering, but really across all teams.
Awesome. All right, we're gonna get to our lightning round here, and everyone's just gonna answer these questions as quickly as possible in the same order. We're gonna go Rachel, Prem, and Bryan.
I
Rachel,
feel I feel targeted and attacked by that, Matt. I
I'm
just want to
well,
let you
you're
know.
I'm going to
glad
order
I'm
that you're
last.
displayed on my screen so I can keep track. So thank you for dealing with my mental clarity there. But Rachel, one
Yeah.
tool or platform you plan on investing more in 2026, and where do you see yourself spending less?
Oh. Ugh. Okay, so probably chatbots. I want those to be I want our career site chatbot to be more uh functional and probably have some AI to it.
Prem?
Whatever our customers want, that's where we're investing. And really, like, we're not creating the future. Everyone that's voting by way of buying tools and what questions they're asking are dictating what's being built. So,
That is the best response you could have given, Bryan.
Content creation. So back to my original point, not making up stories, but taking the stories that exist and creating additional formats of content because one person can only do so much. But if you can take one story and have 16 pieces of content that come out of it, that's the piece. That's where we want AI to add that. And that's not just AI as in creation, but it's also in talking people through the process of like how do you get a good story, and then applying AI to that to get multiple usable pieces.
Awesome. Round two. Rachel, as processes get more automated, where does brand voice live?
What do you mean by live? Where did
Where is there room for a brand to interject that voice and brand that differentiates itself in a process that's frictionless and automated?
Oh gosh. I think just making sure that all of that back end project work that we've spent so much time on, like as that becomes more automated, being able to interject a lot more at every point in the funnel in recruitment marketing, right? So not just in that talent attraction top of funnel, but really digging into the entire experience throughout onboarding and then ensuring that carries over into employee engagement as well in the full cycle.
Great.
yeah, certainly seconding what Rachel said, and I think the engagements piece specifically, that last piece of the cycle is something that I think is really important, but also where tools can help potentially without making things worse if done in the right ways.
Sweet. And Bryan, where does brand voice live in an automated process?
Everywhere.
I
Like
love
you should be asking that question. Every moment is the chance to turn it all around. No, seriously, every moment is a chance to make an impact, to have a connection point to your brand story. And I think the sooner that people understand that and think about it holistically, the better off they'll be.
And Matt, I will add one thing. I think one of the most underutilized pieces of real estate in delivering on employer brand is the rejection email. I think there's a lot more that can be done there to bring silver medalists along and whatnot. Yeah.
Plus
or
one.
just convert people into customers.
Yep.
If nothing else. Final question. So round three of our little lightning round, and then we'll turn it over to audience Q&A. Rachel, one metric you're going to stop reporting in 2026, and what one you're going to start spotlighting or highlighting?
Oh, social media followers. I'm over it. Getting rid of it. I don't care. So much of that is controlled by the algorithms. There, I'll slow down on that. But definitely around quality of hire, skills base. How do we qualify that? Definitely digging into that more next year.
Interesting. Prem, I don't know if you could talk about like an aggregate what you're seeing from your clients.
Yeah, actually, a couple things. Yeah, I would say in terms of what metrics we're going to stop measuring. One, I'll just quickly speak to this. This would not a lot of product folks that may listen to this might not like this, but I think traditionally we measure a lot of success in a product we're building, like LinkedIn or Indeed or what we're doing, based on user engagement and usage. But really, what we are trying to do is make it so people are not signing into our app all the time. They're working out of their ATS or things are just happening. So that's one thing that, but as far as our customers, yeah, I would say just like messaging efficacy of employer brand in a more like personalized way. So like for these roles, mentioning this part of our employer brand might lead to conversion, but might be different for this sort of role. So I think getting more granular in measurement and outcomes is important.
Bryan, take us home.
So above the funnel metrics. So whether you call them vanity metrics or whether you call them the stuff like that you don't control. Yes, there's touch points. Yes, there has to be correlation. That's not causation. From putting your message out there to, oh, we got this hire from this band. Well, how do you know that? Oh, the person told me that ad hoc. Okay, great. Well, that's reliable. So just understanding that you have to actually look within that funnel, and understand where someone is moving from step to step. I think there's way more value in understanding that conversion than there is from who might be floating over your funnel.
I think that was an awesome answer. So, Birch, will turn over to you. I think a couple slides in there about Humanly. And do we have any Q&A?
We did get one question, yeah. So how can AI help companies personalize employer brand experiences while without losing consistency? So kind of the balance between consistency and personalization. It's a tough one. I don't know who wants to
Well,
take that.
I I can take a first swing. I can tell by Rachel's smile that she wants to jump on this one too, but I think consistency can be personalization. And I think you can do both. If you're talking about what are the aspects that our potential talent really cares about, and I'm gonna give a big throwback to what gets you amped. Matt, you might remember this. When you think about what are the elements of your offering, advancement, money, people, technology, innovation, purpose, all of those things. What are those elements that people are actually reacting to and engaging with? That's consistency. Measuring that consistently across your messaging actually allows you to personalize. So I think you can do both.
Awesome. Awesome. Rachel, you have a take on that?
Yeah, self-submission for employees for telling their stories, having different activation points for reminding them
Oh,
of that.
sorry. I'm my mistake. I heard self-submission. Self-submission. I heard self-identify, and I was like, oh no, not a source. So
No,
yes, continue.
self-submission of content, storytelling.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
not going to them, but also, well, like you want to go to them also, but like also having ways, different reminders, screens in the offices, or, maybe at a touch point of their review, different ways that you can remind people like, hey, do you want to tell your story? Did you do a cool thing? These different touch points to be able to allow them to tell that story however they want. And then using AI to understand some themes that you're picking up to maybe elevate or evolve your employer value proposition to match some of those themes that you're seeing come across.
One just quick example, and I totally agree. I think inconsistent personalization doesn't scale. It's harder to measure. It's hard to improve. So I think we're consistent personalization is important. And like there's a lot you can't really change what you're not measuring, and there's so much being measured now, like in interviews. So we found with one of our customers, talking about remote work and their policies and how it influenced their employer brand moved the needle in conversion and satisfaction, but only for one like job family. So knowing what those things are and how they vary, and then having templates and best practice per type of audience, I think is a way you can be consistent but personalize it to the audience. Maybe not the individual person, but um,
Yeah. No, I think that nails the point. And I'll finish by saying I think that good resonant content generally works across audiences. That's why you have like movies that appeal to everyone and some that are very niche. And so I would focus simply on making sure that the content is targeted to Prem's point via segment and then also via intent, because you're going to have somebody at the front of the process who's going to need probably a little less personalization as opposed to as it uh, they're dead set on applying for and getting the job, that's going to be a different set of considerations as well. So with that, that was awesome. Thank you so much. And I will turn it over to Birch to go over some final housekeeping stuff. But special thank you to our guests today. Really appreciate Rachel and Bryan, you guys sharing all of your expertise with us.
Sure, it was great.
Happy to. There is an anonymous question in there that's actually a pretty good question too, Birch, if you want to address.
I know, I kind of wanted to answer that.
I know you have that screen up. Yeah.
Oh, maybe I missed it. Oh, did it just popped in? All right. Is email dead as a recruitment tool? We mostly hire bulk for part-time roles, and our demographic is 18 to 27.
Yes. Next.
No. Here's why. People don't trust SMS, even though that's a younger, they want professional to come through emails. They know it's from you as a company. And the data of everything that we're doing, at least at HPE, shows that they prefer email still.
Demographically too?
Yep.
Oh,
and you are. Yeah.
Okay. Bryan, what do you think?
So I don't think it's dead as I think it's dead as an initial outreach tool. So you can't start the relationship, but you can deepen and continue a relationship via email. So like they're like, "Oh, I was going to be doing something completely different with my time before I got your random cold email. Let me change what I'm doing for the next 2 weeks." No, it's not going to happen. But if somebody raises their hand and they start a conversation, emails that back and forth. I don't know if I agree with you completely, Rachel, but I would love to talk about why people don't trust SMS. I still think people lean on email.
So lead nurturing versus lead gen.
Correct.
Okay. No, that makes perfect sense. Any other thoughts on this? All right. Cool. Do we have any other questions?
That was the last question.
Awesome. So I think we're at time. So it worked out perfectly.
We are at time. Yeah, thank you all for an incredible panel. I just want to say Prem is gratefully dedicated some time to have like one-on-one conversations with TA folks about AI. So I'll send out this link in an email after the webinar. And if you're ever interested in seeing Humanly, of course, please give us a visit. We would also love to chat. We're also going to have a lot more of these roundtables. So if you ever have ideas for topics or would be interested in participating, please reply to the email I send out to you all afterwards too, and would love to get you involved. We do a lot on like helping to help TA leaders like ask the right questions when they're evaluating AI to make sure that they're choosing solutions that reflect their brand well. So this is a resource that we always love to send out as well. But yeah, thank you all again for your time.
You.
Sweet. All right. Well, thank
Thanks,
you.
y'all.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
We'll talk soon.
Yeah, have a good rest of your day.
Bye.